Hello everybody, welcome. It's Thursday, the 11th of December 2025, and we got a crazy show to try to talk about. The boiling water reactor apparently doesn't exist, and the one they're replacing with is a 24-story building, the boiling water reactor BWRX-300. It's supposed to look like this, but it's 240 feet. Now, half of that is underground, but it's still 240 feet tall, 12 stories tall, 24 stories tall. And United Kingdom just got to go ahead. So this is, they're going to build one in Ontario, Canada, one in the United Kingdom. They got Office of Nuclear Regulations, environmental agencies, and natural resources in the United Kingdom, all on board with calling a massive 24-story, 240-foot reactor. This is 50 feet taller than the Fukushima reactors that are 1,000 megawatts. These are only 300. It's the strangest combination imaginable. It's a small modular. It will be one day in a couple thousand years. So will you. They're going to go globally, and worldwide everybody has to accept that a 24-story building is a small modular reactor, which is bigger than current reactors worldwide. As it works to deploy the boiling water reactor 300 in Poland and Eastern Europe. So they're going to have to go along with this 24-story building, this 240-foot building, and call it a small modular reactor worldwide, because you don't have one, clearly. Otherwise, why would you do this? It's the fastest any technology provider has completed steps 1 and 2, truly demonstrating the value of our progress in construction in Canada of the boiling water reactor X300, 300 megawatts. So all of Canada has to pretend that it's a small modular reactor, not the 24-story building that it actually is. That's in Ontario. Ontario, a couple of years, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, closed 758 small renewable energy projects. Closed 760 of them, then promoted nuclear power. The boiling water reactors are 240 feet, 73 meters. They're going to put half of it underground, but still a 12-story building. So why are they doing that if they got a small modular reactor? The International Atomic Energy Agency shows tritium levels are below Japan's limit and meets the international safety standards that they created. This is all the sampling areas. We'll get to that after. Okay, so let me just jump backwards for a minute. I'm going to put up a small modular reactor song. It's called SMR Hype Train. I'll be back right after this. It's a really good song. It's about small modular reactors, and it helps, gives you visual, and it's got some great music into it too. Here we go.
It's safe again, no meltdowns, no waste, no fear, just don't ask where it disappears. Fits on a truck parked by your school. Risk, nah, that's the golden rule. A lawsuit here, a bailout there, but hey, don't breathe the Utah air. Hype train, full speed ahead. Choo choo, baby, that's what they said. More reactors, more mistakes. When it derails, guess who pays? A factory built so nice and neat, stack them up on any street. A soda can could last for years, but where it vents, that's unclear. They called it clean, they called it cheap, till the budget's in too deep. Cost per watt through the roof. We swear it works, but where's the proof? Hype train, watch it roll. On your street, out of control. They want it fast, they want it now. Same old scam in a different town.
Accidents don't happen with great frequency. SMRs produce less waste. Spent fuel, just store it on site. Trust us, this time we got it right. Hype train, can't slow down. Crashing straight into your town. No meltdown, no waste, no doubt. Wait, where's the money now? Well, that didn't work. Hype train, can't slow down. Crashing straight into your town. No meltdown, no waste, no doubt. Wait, where's the money now? That didn't work.
I love it. And that's it. I mean, that's the whole bloody industry. It's just, and we'll get into that now, because there's something kind of interesting about it. They don't have a small modular reactor because the only one they're building is 240 feet tall. So how far are they from a small modular reactor when they're building one 240 feet tall? That means the other 100 companies, by the time to pull your shares out of them, they're selling stocks. And the same thing with the fusion. They wouldn't be planning on building these all over the area. The United Kingdom, we're going to build them in the United Kingdom's good to go, and everybody's okay with it. Globally, they're running globally with these reactors. Poland, Eastern Europe, Canada, same model. Same pathetic 240-foot skyscraper. No, small modular reactor, Dana. People are stupid, Dana. Just everybody calls it small modular reactors, and our scientists who haven't created, the current generation scientists haven't created anything in nuclear. They're still running on the old designs from back when Jesus was a baby. Ontario, in order for nuclear to proliferate, the boiling water reactor to show up in Ontario in the first place, this fake skyscraper. But we're gonna call it a small modular reactor because you're gonna offend the nuclear industry. What the hell? You can't keep up with it, see? Okay, so here's the poll. Someone help me. Is General Electric's Hitachi's 240-foot tall BWRX-300 proof the small modular reactors do not exist worldwide? Well, whoever voted no, you get the freak back here and vote, take that away. Because that's what you got. You're building it everywhere. You're building it in Europe, building it in Poland, building it in the United Kingdom, building it in Canada. Well, you claim you are anyway. If those pesky investors would just throw a bunch of money at you and walk away. So if you're investing in small modular reactors, you need to pull your friggin' money out. That's what you need to do. Their version, and the only version they got is 240 feet tall. Hey, honey, look, we just lost most of our money because we wouldn't listen to Dana because he's a piece of shit. He's so honest, he makes the nuclear industry look bad, so that means he's a piece of shit, all right? I'm a piece of shit. Because I'm asking you a simple question. Is a 240-foot building. Now, Fukushima buildings are 190 foot, 19 stories, 65 meters. They're 150 feet wide. 150 feet wide. So how big is a Canadian small modular reactor that happens to be 240 feet tall? It's going to have those same attributes. This is how they're going to fit it on the back of a truck, right? You've got a bunch of pallets. And just drive it to wherever it's going to go. It's the nuclear industry. They can do whatever they want. So if they want to drive down the highway with their skyscraper, who am I to say anything to them? I mean, I'm sorry, they're small modular reactors. Why are you building a massive 240-foot reactor in Poland if you got a small modular reactor? Why are you calling it a small modular reactor? What's up with that? What's up? Right? 300 small modular reactor. Right in the headline. We're General Electric. We're Toshiba. And our BWRX-300 is a small modular reactor. I'm not making it up. I know what the trolls are. Mom, they're banging on the basement floor telling their mother to come down because I'm calling it. I'm saying it's not that's not a small modular reactor. It's like 240 feet is not a small. They closed 760 wind and solar farms. Took the $5.4 billion for storage that they're going to give to all those renewable family businesses so that they can have their nuclear industry fantasy that doesn't exist. This is absurd. They're going to put 12 stories below ground, but still a massive building. The International Atomic Energy Agency says they didn't find any tritium, Dana. No, there's no tritium. Well, that's nice. It seems everything is actually tritiated now to the nuclear industry's 80 years of brutal emissions from the 1,000 fuel pools worldwide that are still splitting atoms. Once you take the fuel out of the reactor, still splitting atoms, stupids. All the new pro-nuclear calls it carbon-free because it kills everything that's made of carbon. It's an inside joke. International Degenerate Agency sampling shows tritium. Really? Tritium. Tritium. How did that work anyway? You can call in, yell at me if I'm wrong. 709 here in Canada, 740-4076. 709-740-4076. Call in, tell me how wrong I am. Call and bite me up. So they're not, but so I got the actual. Remember when IAEA originally released? Let me see if. Just bear with me 1 second. I never had the headline there for the IAEA. I don't think. So. How can a 24-story building now become a small modular reactor? What kind of friggin' voodoo is this? What kind of nonsense is this? So this happened, this report was 2022, December 29. That's where I'm getting that stuff from, that particular story. And this is the areas they're checking. Check, check, wait, check. Check. I got you, didn't I? Sorry. I'm out of character for a second here. The IAEA task force established to review the safety. They're established, were they? They're not a regulatory agency. They don't have authority over any country. That's common knowledge. They put that in most of their media releases so that they can't be held accountable later. Released his third report. So this was back in 2022, the end of 2022. That doesn't seem right. Oh, that's their third report that's okay for Japan to release it at that point, right? But here was what they were saying. They had this PDF there. And so when you see that stuff and this stuff and that stuff, that's from that particular report. And that's really important because that's the foundation. So all of a sudden now they're talking about tritium. This document produced with financial assistance of the organizations shown below. give or take a couple of 195. So this, so they got americium in there, and your last line over is the liters. Becquerels per liter. And I kind of screwed up that, did I? It didn't show up on that. Let me come back over here. Sorry. Oh yeah, I can't see it that clear. I'll try to fix that. Just bear with me. Little glitch in the machine, so you can't really see it on the big profile. And I don't know how to change the side on it. Let's keep going. Don't worry, there's a whole bunch of this. We'll get it. We'll get to it. And this is the sections of the coastline that they were checking for radiation. Because it's just madness that the whole planet is actually incapable of comprehending this. They're so cocky and so arrogant. The boiling water reactor X-300 small modular reactor, which is 240 feet, reaches a regulatory milestone, so all of the regulatory agencies, United Kingdom, is in on it. Right? It's the same thing for Poland, Europe, Eastern Europe, same thing for Canada, same thing. And the United States is going to build one too, right? So you got United States and Canada, you got United Kingdom, you got Europe, you got Poland, signed on to a massive reactor, and they're going to call it a small modular reactor. So that's just crazy talk, right? That's crazy talk. But that's what they're doing. For some reason, we're never going to have one. That's what they're basically saying. So we're just going to go ahead and build it, and everybody's going to have to pretend, like it or not, because we're UN and we're better than everybody. And you're gonna, if you don't call it a small modular reactor, if you don't get on one knee and kiss my ring and say it's a small modular reactor, we're gonna ban you from everywhere. And there's only a few of you that are having a conversation, so these people are lunatics, eh? They don't have to call it a small modular reactor and just say, fuck it. We can't build that. We'll try later. Right now, we're going to build this thing that's 300 megawatts. Yeah, it's bigger than Fukushima reactors. I know. Shut up. We're in the nuclear industry. But to come out and shove small modular reactors up everybody's arses, no pun intended. Well, I guess there actually is. That seems like it's pretty belligerent. How did that conversation go? How does that conversation work? We're going to call it a small modular, but it's 240 feet tall. Well, we know that, George, but we're going to call it a small modular reactor, but it's 240 feet tall. We're going to put 12 stories underground. So, yeah, but it's still 12 stories. How does that conversation work? I was like, here, right on a piece. Here's another million. Oh, it's a small modular reactor. Look at that. If they got to, they'll just replace and put somebody there that will just acquiesce to whatever. Say it's a micro reactor. It's a micro reactor. You should see it. Put me on TV. I'll tell everybody. Small modular reactor, which is 240 feet tall. So we're officially now in the twilight zone. This is the twilight zone. How does that become a small modular reactor? How does a 24-story skyscraper, how do you get away with calling that a small modular reactor? And everybody's doing it. The Office of the Nuclear Regulation is doing it. The Environmental Agency is doing it. The Natural Resources Wales are calling it a small modular reactor. Not only that, they're saying it meets the highest standard of safety, security, environmental protection. That's because it's so fucking big. Environmental protection, shortfall. Once the fuel goes in the fuel pool, you can't contain the emissions from the fuel pool forever. It's got some shortfalls. It's called an extinction event in normal circles. This is the fastest that any technology provider had ever completed step 1 and 2. Forever. That's the fastest ever. We'll get quicker. We're just starting to roll. We're nuclear. Truly demonstrating the value of our progress in construction. No, you're demonstrating the ignorance and gullibility of Canadians is more like it. It's a little bit bigger. It's a couple of 100 feet bigger than a small modular reactor that would be considered, like a 40-foot reactor would be considered big a few years ago. That's a big reactor every day. We're talking small modular reactor. Put them in the back of a small truck, ship them somewhere, and plug them in. In your dreams, as we said. But this is what, and now what? Now they're going to build it. We got one. We got it. We did it. It was the moment, I guess, when they come up with this massive 240-foot small modular reactor. They were like, eureka moment when he said, it's a small modular reactor. We got it. Here's the design. It's 240 feet. Yeah, but it's a small modular reactor, George. Okay. Oh. Well, what do I know? This sounds great. Why are they doing this? Because they don't have a large reactor. They can build just a Fukushima reactor. That would be small compared to the one they're going to build, which is 1/3 of the power, by the way. But don't worry, they're going to put 12 stories underground. Have you ever been in a 12-story underground building before? That should be neat. Why are you you're going to dig a 12-story hole, and you're going to put half the reactor down there, and it's still going to be a massive 12-story building above it. I know what you're saying. It's a small modular reactor, Dana. It's a 24-story building. It's going to look something like this. When I'm putting it on the back of a truck and taking it somewhere. It's so small. It's so small. Like, I can't wrap my mind around why they're calling it, because clearly they don't have a small modular reactor. Or you're not going to build a 24-story skyscraper. Even put 12 stories of it below ground, which is the most idiotic thing I've ever heard. And it's probably because it's going to be releasing so much neutron, they need to put it deep under Earth so they don't radiate everybody upstairs, right? Excuse me. So these reactors, in order to goose themselves up with the design that they're lunatics. Look, they radiated, they used every isotope to try to cure cancer, and all they done was kill Joe worldwide. Don't worry, 80 years later, we're next. They were doing a radon. This kooky, batshit, lunatic, whack job industry. They're chicken necks, but they're dangerous chicken necks because there's nobody in control. The IAEA is basically in control of nuclear worldwide. The regulatory agencies have the authority to make it illegal to poison you with radiation, but Congress and parliaments and senates don't. They have the authority to make it illegal to poison you with over 3,000 chemicals that they currently do, but they're not allowed to make it illegal to poison you, or illegal to poison you with anthropogenic man-made radiation, because otherwise all nuclear closes down immediately. And they all go to jail that week because you can't contain the emissions. So everybody's going to get poisoned. They're idiots. And they knew 80 years ago this day was coming. Oh crap, we killed all the species. And they know everything about radiation. There's nothing they don't know about radiation. I'll just give you a little example of how switched on they actually are of anthropogenic man-made radioactive fallout and its effects. So think of an atom with 200 million atoms on the head of a needle, but you can't see it. And just one of the man-made ones warrants this kind of investigation. This is how they invest this, and this is nothing what I'm going to show, but I'm just going to flash through. This is studies on radiation effects, anthropogenic man-made radioactive fallout effects upon everything. Everything that we identified as something has been studied because it's been contaminated or killed or mutilated or congenital malformations because they come in proximity or contact with anthropogenic man radiation. And so they've studied like the amount of people in the blue, and if you just count all of those names, you can see all of these people that are doing these studies. It's hard to wrap your mind around how many millions and millions and millions and millions of academic studies they produced on anthropogenic man-made radiation. They know everything about it. There's nothing they don't know about it. There's nothing. There is nothing they don't know about it. And they studied everything multiple times from different institutions to see if they get the same result. They studied more than the elements from the solar system by many orders of magnitudes. They're obsessed. And they love using you and your children and your friends and your families and your loved ones. And they're actually counting on that as for their children to go to university and take over wherever they left off. They have been studying you like lab rats continuously for 80 years. And they see you as a peanut, more so than, at least a lab rat to them is different. It sees you as a peanut, just something literally that is irrelevant. They're the most arrogant, hubris creatures you ever come across. They're the chicken necks of humanity, and they're inbreeds, chicken necks of the chicken necks inbreeds. They got married decades ago, and their little children are the monsters that are doing all of these studies, knows the difference, refuses to come to the defense of humanity or the species. They sit in silence, they rake in. Like, look at that last study, all the people in that particular study. It's so endless amount of studies that they've done with anthropogenic man-made radiation. I used to sit some days in the house here and I would put on a ticker tape of this stuff. Every 5 seconds, there was another one on the screen. And I'd done that for I don't know how long. It was so long ago. I was mesmerized by what I call a ticker tape. And so if I'm working on a show or I'm doing this or getting that ready, then I would have that in the background. I didn't want no noise because I kind of like that where I don't have any background noise. It's only what I want to hear in particular. And in between, I don't want to hear nothing. No commercials, no autoplay, anything like that. And you look up and you get lost in this stuff, and then you get inspired by it, how sadistic and twisted and demented and hateful it must be to do this to humanity, and suggest that it's like a banana and a potato chip and walking in the sunshine and climbing a mountain and sleeping next to somebody. Right, which is a gross misrepresentation of even the minutest facts. It's belligerent, right? This is belligerence. And now globally, they're going to put small modular reactors that are massive. They're so belligerent. They're just like, yeah, it's going to be funny. It's freak. Durnford's going to crack up when he sees it. Hey, but it's going to be funny because the whole world is just. The minute you say nuclear power, it's Simpsons. The minute you say radioactive waste, it's Spider-Man. The minute you say a mutation, it's the Hulk. The minute you say, what about the kids, it's SpongeBob. Right? They've covered all their bases. And now they're like, they're so proud. Oh, we're going to deploy it to Poland, and Eastern Europe, and the United Kingdom, United States, the globe. We're going to do it on the globe. There's a nuclear renaissance. I swear. They swear on their child's next breath to the investors. And boom, yeah, baby. These are monsters, these people. Intelligent, incredibly educated, coward as you can possibly conceive, scared of their own shadows, I would imagine, many a times growing up. And as an adult, they're fearful of everything. They live in a very secure environment their whole life because their little world is very fragile. And being evil is fun. It's fun, right, that they have this so-called power. But all these studies where they're studying all the species I just showed you, well, that's absurd. That then they come out and say it's like a banana on a potato chip and walk in the sunshine and climbing mountains and sleeping next to somebody, etc., etc. It's absurd that there's no correction of that. That is promoted through the universities and the medias. That's what the students, in order to be able to get that study, they had to regurgitate that narrative who knows how many times to be able to then be able to participate in these studies and make a living on this so-called research. It's a documentary of their crimes against humanity, what each one of these studies are. They've studied everything constantly because they know it's damaged by anthropogenic man-made radiation. And then still stick it into your loved ones in the hospital and have the courage or the madness to be able to suggest that it's somehow therapy. The ultimate betrayal. As it works to deploy the massive small modular reactors in Poland, the massive 240-foot small modular reactors in Poland, I don't know how to tell this story because it's so bizarre. I can show you all the evidence. Part of the government's, United Kingdom government's Future Nuclear Enabling Fund project to benefit from the regulatory lessons learned. Like, these people are whack jobs. It's got something to do with grammar, whatever it is they're really up to, but if you play that backward, it probably says, "Where the devil?" I see me killing it again tonight, all right? 13 current viewers and 12 likes. Well, that's pretty good. Not bad. And 14 votes, I might add. So now I'm somehow recording a full-size video and a small-size video. Good, half good, not so good. So I'm not in that video. Have I got to move myself now so I fit into that video? How about if I move myself over here from now on? Because apparently it's recording a small video. I should show up there now because I don't think I'm shown. Anyway, I don't know how this is going to play out. Because you got a full-size video, right? At the same time, you're recording a small video, like for shorts. So is it going to chop that stuff here? I was kind of hoping I was going to pop up right here, right? Just give it a few more seconds, then we'll go back. Oh, there you go. Hey, buddy. Let me see how this works here. This will probably be crap. The boiling water whack jobs. Yeah, because it doesn't... Who knows? Who cares? I go back in my corner, suck my thumb. The BWRX-300 is part of the UK's government Future Nuclear Enabling Fund project. It's going to benefit from regulatory lessons learned. They got all bases covered, except for the fact that it's 240-foot skyscraper. It's a 24-story skyscraper. The BWRX-300 continues prove it is the world's most deployable, ready, drum roll please, small modular reactor. But it's who cares, I guess. It's a 240-foot skyscraper. Stop calling it a small modular reactor. At least stop doing that, because this is madness. It can't be an accident. He didn't accidentally put small modular reactor in the story, because the investors are invested in a small modular reactor, not a skyscraper. They might pull their money when they find out the scam. How are they going to keep this scam hidden when they're going to build these reactors worldwide? That's their nuclear renaissance, is it? 5 or 6 gigawatts. They're not even a gigawatt each. They're like 300 megawatts. It's going to take at least 3 of them for equal a normal reactor. And they're only building, 6? So they're basically 2 gigawatts. There was 660 gigawatts came on last year in 12 months of solar. A gigawatt is supposed to power 1 million homes, for people who are not aware. I'm so confused by the double screens I got there, though. Whatever that is. Hopefully it works out. Hopefully it's chopping out videos. It could happen. Everybody's laughing at me. Come on, Dad, I'll be retarded. I know. I'm stupid. Just call me stupid. Want to see something bizarre? Yeah, I know you do. So after the show last night, now remember my other site, any 911 videos got taken down, and I got strikes on my channel if I put anything new up, right? So anyway, last night I was looking at this new feature, same as tonight, where we got the double screens. Somehow or another on off my game. Okay, so here we go. So this is why this could fit your channel. This is YouTube Studio, inspired by viewers' comments. Fukushima versus 911. Why one cover-up gets ignored, the other is hyped. This is the headlines is suggesting that I use for my show tonight. All right. Fukushima versus 911, why one cover-up gets ignored, the other hyped, and then it even has a description for me. I don't have to do anything. We're exposing the insidious global silence surrounding Fukushima's nuclear catastrophe. Well, they're right. It's not like they're wrong. You know what I'm saying? I got 10 viewers, so there's definitely something to this. About the truth of ecological collapse versus manufactured narratives. YouTube will probably give me a strike if it doesn't know one video. They don't. The previous, well, I don't know if the new administration has some influence. Some of my videos had almost like 3 million views on 911. They were good videos, rock solid videos, where I show. Still afraid to say it. I'm going to get a strike on your channel and take your video down right away. They're like anal, vicious. So, decades after 911, this some of the pictures it was suggesting I use for thumbnails. The uncomfortable truth: Fukushima cover-up versus 9/11's hype. Why does Fukushima get buried while 911 still sells? And this is some of the pictures, the thumbnails. I downloaded that thumbnail. Oh, I didn't like the screen that time on my end. I downloaded this one and the furthest one over. How weird is that? That was a bit of a shock and awe. Okay. We got all the whales who are emaciated post-Fukushima. Now they can't build a small modular reactor, so they're just going to fake it. I don't even know how to start the conversation on that one, see? It's not a small, it's not like this. It's going to be 24-story building. Yeah, 12 of it's going to be underground, but it's still going to be skyscraper above ground with 12 stories, but a skyscraper underground, a skyscraper above ground. We're going to call it a small modular reactor, so shut up. That's what it's going to look like, Dana. No. It's going to look like that. Well, New Brunswick chose a small modular nuclear reactor. It's 38 meters below ground and 35 meters above ground. It's 10 stories up and 11 stories below ground, give or take one. Did that make any sense to anybody? Is there anybody out there that got any common sense about this? It's a 240-foot, 73-meter. That's not a small modular reactor, okay? It's not. It's not even tiny small. I don't know what to make of it anymore. Well, I mean, I don't even know where to start. Let's keep going here. They're going to deploy small modular reactors commercially to customers around the globe, but they're 24-story buildings, so everybody's got to pretend that it's a small modular reactor. I know they're going to do it, right? I know every country that's pro-nuclear will go ahead and do it, but doesn't that prove that they don't have small modular reactors when they're just going to go ahead and build a massive skyscraper bigger than any current reactor worldwide and 1/3 the power and call it a small modular reactor? Well, I guess technically it's 300 megawatts. A small modular reactor about 7-8 years ago was going to be like 100 megawatts. It had to be plutonium mixed oxide fuel for that to work, but it wasn't very big. And so then they started increasing the sizes and the military grade of the fuel. This is crazy, though. Right, the United States at Clinch River, site in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. OPG, TVA, Duke Energy. They had these memorandums of understanding with other countries. We're going to build these massive reactors, and everybody worldwide is supposed to sit back and say, well, son of a bitch, it's 240 feet tall, but they're calling it a small modular reactor, and that's just the way it is from now on. Might as well go watch The Simpsons or something, because the industry just doesn't care. So what? So why are they calling it a small modular? Is there a legal technical problem or something? Why the hell are they calling it small when it's so big, right? Why not just say it's a new design, it's 300 megawatts. Yeah, it's a little big, we'll get it down later. Why come out and make the absurd claim when it's, it's 120 feet below and 130 feet above, or 100. Why would you call it a small modular reactor? Why? Where's the small modular? I thought you had 100 companies making small modular reactors. Does anybody know? Anybody? Let's look at the poll again. Maybe that'll inspire me to not pull the rest of the hair out of my head. I got 14 votes this early in the show. We've only been at it 44 minutes, sure. I have the best support. Hello, everybody. 6-foot thick pocket protector. The call is small to qualify for the joint government subsidies. Let's give Kevin a call. I'm going to give you a call, Kevin. I'm going to give you a call. Got to go easy on the swearing tonight, though, because we only got 10 people here. They're all special. They're all nuclear regulators Timbuktu. Yeah, so I got two screens recording. I'll give you a call, give Kevin a call here in a few seconds. Give him a chance to hear me. Let me get back on the other screens because this is madness. There we go. Well, that's what I got to. Hook everything up first before I call Kevin. Only a second more. I'm pretty fast and pretty swift. I want to hear Kevin making fun of small modular reactors. So is it proof they haven't got a small modular reactor? Here we go. Sure, the volume is all the way up. Hey, Kevin. Hey, buddy. It's Dana. You got a few minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the SMR, what happened is last year,
You gotta,
worked on
so,
it all spring
so
and
hang on.
summer.
You're gonna have
Go
to
ahead.
speak up.
Okay. So last year, 2024,
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah.
okay, the cartel started really hammering through Congress and the Parliament in Canada and the U.S. to get these advanced nuclear builds. So they were hammering away, and so there was a big pullback on these big nuclear reactors because they're like, the only one that's been built was at, well, going to cost $37 billion. So they had to rewrite the bill. So the bill has been written. They said, well, this is going to be all SMRs, all small modular, and it's called the Advanced Nuclear Act. It got through Parliament in Canada. I didn't think it'd get through in the U.S. And they got it through committee. I fought them. And when it went to vote, of course, both parties voted for it. It passed the Senate 88-2. 10 people abstained in the U.S. Parliament passed the same thing. In the bill, they have tens of billions of dollars in this bill for advancing nuclear technology. In the bill, it says they've got to be SMRs. There's no government
No subsidies or no tax breaks or no. Go ahead, Kevin. I'm sorry.
Well, not even tax breaks. This is free money. This is billions of dollars. So these companies all know it. And then in the U.S., they advanced what they call Price-Anderson, which is the Immunity Act,
Right.
for another 20 years. It was going to expire
That's right.
this year.
Yeah, brutal.
And so they got that through so they don't have to pay it back. So that's why everybody's all in. And they have to call it an SMR, and it has to be new technology, or they
Okay.
don't get the money.
Okay, so then the other question though that I want for people to hear from your version of is it clear by what they're doing that they don't have a small modular reactor because they're going to be building these all over the places, and clearly they're not expecting an actual small modular reactor to come out.
No,
They're getting the money, but the population doesn't care about that kind of stuff. It's going to notice the fact that it's massive compared to one that might show up. So like if NuScale's little 80 megawatt one was to show up, which we don't believe in any shape or form it could, but it's pretty small. If that showed up, then someone does the comparison on TikTok or something like that, this will blow up in their faces for a long time, hopefully. Go ahead, Kevin. I'm sorry.
NuScale, who was supposedly testing at Idaho National Lab, I've been up there a dozen times, they threw up their hands and said, we never have been tested. We don't got it.
No.
They've admitted they don't have it.
No, they have
now
lawsuits.
Sam
Yeah.
Altman's OKLO, who he
Yeah.
supposedly partnered at Idaho National, and even
Oklo, yeah.
the Financial Times came out, that bootlicking royal paper,
Yeah.
and said straight up that they have no product, they have no revenue, they have nothing. So there's only one company in Canada and the United States that's been licensed through the regulatory committees. In the world, there's only been one license for an SMR. That was NuScale. And
Right.
NuScale got licensed in 2017. The only reason they got licensed because they voted it down. Cynthia was placed by Trump as the new head of the NRC. She worked at Idaho National Lab with the CEO of NuScale. Jose Reyes and her worked together. They have a relationship. So she got it through, which was a scam because they didn't have it. So the other two that submitted, including Bill Gates'
TerraPower.
terraformer here in Wyoming, the NRC shot it down. Said, no, you don't have it. We don't have it. So recently, everybody's all giddy because Bill Gates supposedly got approved here in Cameron, Wyoming for his SMR factory. No, he didn't. The NRC approved the construction of the facility. That's all they approved. They have not approved any because he doesn't have one. Same with Sam Altman. Sam Altman sent one in, OKLO, a year ago, and they sent it back. Says, no, there's nothing here. We don't see. Well, you have it. Let us know.
Like they're dependent upon Russia for their fuel, even if they do want to do a test reactor, so to speak, their high assay fuel.
Well, they're not even testing. This is such a scam.
That's what I'm saying,
they're
yeah.
doing. They're pulling. The Stanford professor coined a term recently called it subsidy harvesting. I talked to him and I said, I sent him some emails and I said, it's not. It's more than subsidy harvesting. They grew the subsidies. Bill Gates wrote the bill. Bill Gates' foundation is so big, he wrote the bill in Canada and he wrote the bill here.
He's in charge of WHO.
Yeah, and so he wrote the bill that his foundation wrote the bill.
Crazy, yeah.
They got it through, so there are no SMRs. They've been testing SMRs since the 1950s. They just blow up every time. And so there aren't any. And,
sodium reactors.
The technology's been taken, sodium,
Because they still talk about the sodium as if they're going to break through. But I mean, the history, like you say, they have of the sodium is holy shit stuff. Enrico Fermi,
all
Santa
SMRs
Susana.
are holy shit. Every time they've ever been tried, they've been a
All
failure.
melted down, right?
Well, Putin tried that SMR in August of
That's
2019.
right. Yeah, we covered
They tried to put it in the rocket.
Yeah.
And remember, it was an SMR. And the reason we know that is because in Sweden, they picked up season 137. When it blew up and killed the top 8 nuclear physicists in Russia were standing there. It blew up and killed them all. And then you got the one in the SMR, the fast breeder Westinghouse Mach 5s that was supposed to be one a month going on in China, starting in 2010. They only put one on. It's the one near Taiwan. And I don't know if you remember, a few years ago, it blew up, went into meltdown. And the reason we know that is because the French company, Arriva, that was helping them build it, sent the letter out by law, international law. The IAEA, I was involved in that law, getting it through. By international law, if you have a nuclear meltdown, you have to send letters to every single downwinder country, which is all of them, that you had a meltdown. You have to send it to their State Departments. It works through the State Department. They sent the letter to Jennifer Graham Holmes, the DOE, and she said on it, it got leaked to CNN at 12:30 in the morning. I know the guy that leaked it out. And it got out there. And so we know that one in China had a meltdown. And that's another
that's right. I remember that, yeah. They definitely had a significant release. Whatever, there was a lot of speculation, including myself at the time it melted down.
We know,
it was definitely a release.
It went into an accident because they sent out what we call the downwinder line. They sent it out. The French company, Arriva, sent it out. And so, anyway, so there are no SMRs. There are none. And everybody's got this thing, China's put all these. No, they haven't. China's pivoted away from nuclear a long time ago.
The Russian small modular reactor is a 15-story barge. Who knows how much is underwater? It's quite a bit, I would imagine. Go ahead.
The barge reactor that they're using in all the way to further north. So you know that Russia this month is shutting down those 3 reactors. They're the farthest northern.
That's right, yeah.
Reactors
I seen that a few days
ago. They're going offline.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going offline.
That surprised me, eh? That really surprised me. That's another nail. Yeah. Go ahead.
They're worn out and they're broke down and they know it. And so they've spent their life. It's like Diablo Canyon here. You get to the 40-year cycle, which these were approved for. They get 40 years old, they're done. They're all worn out. They're broke down.
Are these people like lunatics or something? Like the nuclear industry, I mean, my goodness, did they know for a fact that it poisons everything with replicating cells?
That's why they did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. These go back to
and so many generations too, right? Of this happening.
Yeah, they're psychos. It's
crazy.
It's the DD cult. The same people that are doing it in Gaza, the same people that did. I mean, look how these sickos think. I mean, so there's a reason they built 54 nuclear reactors on Japan after the bomb.
Right.
I mean, before when the U.S. took over it, they knew that they know these things are going to melt down. They know it. They're sick.
Especially in that place.
That's their agenda. They're trying to poison us.
Yeah. They just want to wipe out because it's not like they're just going to they're going to poison everything. Their species and themselves.
Already have.
It poisons everything, right? There's nothing on the planet got a trigger to defend against it. So
post Fukushima, it's the greatest
that's what I'm saying,
collapse in history.
It's just like a cult that's been around and got control of nuclear and seen it as a biological weapon.
That's who they are.
Yeah.
That's what I call them. I call them the cult.
Yeah.
It's the greatest evil cult in history.
They're cowards
that's
too,
who
right?
They are.
They're incredibly cowardly.
Oh, they're beyond coward. They're sick. Well, think about it. Look who all the people who got these SMR, that porkers who are all pro-nuclear. You're talking Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeff Bezos, born in Los Alamos. Been sick of it. Elon Musk. You're talking Peter Thiel. I mean, these.
I noticed a lot of them.
BB.
I noticed a whole lot of them were pro-GMO. Right? A lot of them would promote GMO at the same time as they promoted the disease factories, nuclear.
Sure.
That's not an accident. I'm sure of it because I documented a whack of it.
Try on that ball. Come on, son. So, yeah, they're sickos.
That's it's absurd that if they had a small
Dana,
mouse. Go
let
ahead.
me call you right back.
Okay.
I got to deal with something else. Sorry.
Go ahead,
I'll
buddy.
call you back.
Go ahead. Yeah. I turned the volume up in the hopes that would be better. I don't know if it was or not. It was a random shot in the dark for me. So you got a 240-foot reactor, and you got all kinds of incentives to lie. But now the United States might have that incentive, but does the United Kingdom have that incentive? Does Poland have that same incentive? Does Eastern Europe have that same incentive? Does Canada have that same incentive? I don't think all of them do, right? And so that's something to consider anyway. It just, like, what I'm trying to understand, my understanding is they don't have a small modular reactor, and that's why they pulled the trigger on the BWRX-300 design, because there's maybe a time limit on the loot that they can steal from the local. But see, what about the other countries? Which, I could also, you got to sell them. The other countries won't have the same incentives because I know Poland is not a very wealthy country. And you remember the World Nuclear Power Plant celebration they had last year, was it? We took that video. It was the first conference or some World Nuclear Power Conference. It was meant to start an interest. And Poland was there, and they were doing the speech, and Grossi was, UN was running it. And we covered it here. We played all the little short clips. I broke it up in all the different countries. And Poland said they would love to have a reactor, but they're, kind of broke. And Grossi was like, we can help. What a disgusting people, eh? And if you put a reactor in your country, you're getting poisoned by nuclear everywhere anyway. But if you put it in your country, you are going to significantly contaminate the soil, which is all your farms and all your playgrounds for your schools, everything else. It's all the runoff goes into your aquifers that you're going to be drinking. And then all the species are going to be heavy bioaccumulations. All the berries will be bioaccumulating it, and all the species that eat them by proxy, significant bioaccumulation. We're seeing it 1,000 fuel pools worldwide splitting atoms directly into your environment. I don't know if, new people coming here can appreciate the enormity of that kind of radioactive fallout. Let me just keep going on this for a little bit. Deploying small modular reactor commercially, customers around the globe. So will they have the same incentive, right, for... I know, right, the Biden administration Is Trump going to gut those particular incentives? It doesn't look that way. About General Electric Hitachi Nuclear Energy. This is Global Alliance with Hitachi's world-leading provider of nuclear fuel bundles, services, and advanced nuclear. So if they're going to be selling a false small modular reactor, and they're a big provider of fuel, services, and everything else, then there's no way to correct this kind of corruption, right? The whole system is just rotten. And they're belligerent too, because they're doing this. But they don't have a small modular reactor. There's 100 other companies fired up post-Fukushima are going to crack the small modular reactor code. So should people withdraw their investments in all the small modular reactor companies worldwide, because the boiling water BWRX-300 is the golden child, right? And if you come out with an actual small one and you compare it to a 24-story building, that is going to be a big problem for the nuclear industry, right? And TikTok and many other social medias have a habit of people will lose faith, the very little tiny faith that they're able. You know, the industry is basically, it doesn't care about anybody. And so to go ahead and do it is just pure belligerence to call it a small modular reactor. They don't have to be blatant about it. Say, yeah, they can claim it is and get the funding, but they don't have to shove it down everybody's throat. That you don't actually got to do that. Or they can have that at the last paragraph or something, which you do for a lot of the bad news, which is one of the simplest, yet most innovative boiling water reactor designs. Well, turn it into a small one. Why turn it into a 20? If it's so simple, why is it a 24-story building? Ontario power emissions rise 400% 2022 because Doug Ford canceled 760 renewable projects. Not projects, rather, businesses that were producing power. There was 5.4 billion allocated for them to have storage, to turn them completely 24-hour operations. Doug Ford took that money and gave it to Bruce Power. Hang on. Energy storage powered by Ontario nuclear power plants. Nuclear power plants don't need storage. They took the money before they shut down the projects and allocated it to the nuclear industry. And right, just that way they scuttled the industry. They had to give the money right away, I guess. Right, we covered this back when that happened. For storage, you could have 760 renewable projects with storage, would have been proof of concept 760 times. And then nuclear, no one would have given a shit about nuclear after that. Right, you would have had a big stick for the nuclear industry right then. So what, they gave the money to the nuclear industry to make the same thing as the 760 renewable sites would have made anyway. Even the World Nuclear News is coming here showing you a picture that got nothing to do with the real picture. The real picture is not going to look anything like that. It's going to be 12 stories above ground, 12 stories below ground, basically. Not going to look anything like this. Of course, it's right on the Great Lakes, the third biggest aquifer on the entire planet, slightly uphill with a downhill grade. It's a 300 megawatt massive skyscraper. Latest Fukushima water release within safety limits. Like, have they ever actually seen the buildings? The water releases were August 24, 2023, right? This is year one. You really think to put out that genie in the bottle, back in the bottle? International Atomic Energy Agency sampling shows tritium levels are far below Japan's limit and meets international safety standards. May I have another? Nuclear engineering. Approximately 124,000 cubic meters of water was released since Japan started the discharge in August 2023 from the ALP system. Like the ALP system, first off, you can't filter fuel particulates because you got neutrons, betas, alphas, and gammas mixing together. You're going to have a chain reaction in the filter. But after 20 minutes, the filter is going to be so lethal you can't get within hundreds of feet of it without a massive amount of shielding at that point. You can't change the filter. And even if you did, you couldn't store a bunch of filters in one place because you know one of them's going to melt down right away and it's going to ignite the rest of it. You can't store fuel particulates all the different together because that's a chain reaction. It's the perfect recipe for a chain reaction. And you're talking about thousands of sieverts after about 10, 20 minutes of filtration. It's completely dishonest. I mean, they picked up 30 million one-ton bags in just 14 prefectures, or just single prefecture. The food was banned in 14 prefectures by 55 countries. They have no control over the emissions. So whatever they're putting in the tank is going to be at full range. They're allegedly pouring water over these pour tanks, and then whatever they're sucking up is going to be full of fuel particulates, right? They're trying to keep the reactor core, so they're pouring it on the what's left of the reactor. The majority of it clearly left the building like Elvis immediately. It was ejected off the site and into the ocean and into the environment and all over tsunami debris carried all over the ocean. If the Fukushima contaminated water is truly safe, Japan wouldn't have to dump it in the ocean. Latest Fukushima water release within the safety limits, nuclear engineering, December 10th, 2025, yesterday. The ALP system removes all radioactive isotopes, Dana. Have a nice day. Not so quick there, except tritium, really. April 21st, 2014. The Advanced Liquid Processing Systems, ALPS, is yet to function. That's 3 years too late. That's 3 years later. They only started building it in 2013. They didn't finish it until 2015. The Riva system, which is the same as the French system, wasn't even used, period. They didn't even try to turn it on because it doesn't work that way. It was built for eye candy, for the media to come out and pretend that they had things under control. There are certain parts of the site that don't even have full control. 2014, so they don't have control. You know what that means? You die there. Your organs melt. July 29, 2014, TEPCO says groundwater bypass operation not having effects at the Fukushima Daiichi. Groundwater bypass operation. They're going to build a fence, which of course is stupid to even suggest you could do that. TEPCO's ice wall, which is even stupider. Never been, you're talking about nuclear meltdowns at 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures, first off. Do you really think it cares about ice? You're talking about no bottom, no top to contain anything. TEPCO's official, even if they did get to work, they didn't. They said there was 260,000 people worked on the ice wall, which is absurd to suggest that many people worked on a friggin' ice wall at a multiple nuclear meltdown site. Water above 1 sievert per hour. Stick that into the filter and see how long it is before you got to run away because your organs are melting. 1,000 years from now, contaminated water from Fukushima may be still entering the Pacific Ocean. Oh, it will. It'll be entering the Pacific Ocean from all over the world, wherever it landed. Whatever contaminated will be washing into the ocean. Like all your tree leaves are radioactive. All your pollen is radioactive worldwide. That's washing into the ocean constantly. The ocean is radioactive from the massive fallout. This could one day be considered the start of the ultimate catastrophe of the world and the planet. Uh-oh. Looks like I pissed somebody off. A massive 240-foot skyscraper, small modulars. The smallest of the smallest modular reactor, the microscopic small modular reactors. How big is it? Oh, it's about 240 feet tall. 50 atoms a kilogram in humans lead to irreversible lesions in the vital organs. Adults. You put 200 million of them on the head of a needle, you can't see it. How are you going to protect yourself? 35.8% of Fukushima children have thyroid tumors of 2 centimeters. That's the size of their thyroid, by the way. It used to be 1 in a million. Now it's 358 out of a million if you scale it up. It's 13,646 out of 38,200. In a single month there, the death rate might give the creeps to some people. Heart attacks, extra people, there was an extra 12,700 in 1 month dropped dead from heart attacks. Sound familiar where you're to? International Atomic Degenerate Agency today admitted there's no such thing as a safe level of radiation. The standards are based on natural, not man-made. Natural is benefit, man-made is dangerous, so you have to have safety in every facet of it. They're scum. Like, their standards are based on bananas and potato chips, wireless sunshine, not anthropogenic man-made radioactive fallout. How do you reconcile that? I can't. Irreversible heart damage for children with 50 atoms a kilogram. A becquerel is a pulse of energy. You need an atom, an isotope to make that happen. Cesium-137 immediately damages the heart muscles. Radioactive material from a reactor, the radioactive fallout from nuclear fuel pools and reactors and everything else is 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison. So just because you can't see it or hear it or taste it or touch it or feel it or pick it up or throw rocks at it or perceive it, doesn't mean that it doesn't get you later. It doesn't come back and haunt you forever. Half of Japan to be covered in nuclear waste. 60 and older should be prepared to die at your carbon-free power plant. 60 and older should be prepared to die at your carbon-free power plant. Well, it didn't matter because there was 865,000 extra cancers, a spike of almost 1 million cancers in the first year. Do you got any idea how crazy that is long term? We are now looking at long term. Congenital heart diseases operations rose 14% to 100,000 live births. 14% increase in the number of operations per live births. For complex congenital heart diseases in neonates and infants. Xenon-133 in Washington and 135 was at 450,000 times above detection levels after Fukushima. These are absurd numbers. And inhaling just one of them can cause a cancer or a heart problem or a liver problem or a lung problem or respiratory or pituitary or thyroid or adrenaline. Send us people who don't mind dying. Does that sound like they got it under control? Tokyo Vice Governor suggested a Fukushima draft. 60 and older should prepare to die. Send us people who don't mind dying. International Degenerate Agency shows tritium levels are far below Japan's limit. Meet the international safety standards. There's literally the worst humans imaginable. The most ruthless and heartless and spineless and soulless and just all around creepy people, man. Oh boy. Just let me explain something crystal clear about IAEA. We have many facets to do it with, but let's choose this one. This was Anna Clark. IAEA says public key trust is key to projects. Trust, not science. This is Anna the Snake. The International Degenerate Agency is not a regulator, not in a position to judge or approve Japan's soil recycling project. They're not a regulator and not in a position to judge the approval of Japan's soil, their water, their reactors, their fuel, anybody else's, or anything worldwide. They're not a regulatory agency. They put that disclaimer in most of their big press releases, so it can't come back and haunt them, right? I'm not trying to be unfair to a bunch of sick and twisted, demented monsters. I mean, the International Atomic Energy Agency. After a 2-year review, the International Degenerate Agency said Japan's plan was consistent. It's consistent. Grossi also emphasized in the International Atomic Energy Agency report, in the actual report, that its documents is neither a recommendation nor an endorsement. It's not a recommendation or endorsement because the International Atomic Energy Agency is not a regulator and is not in a position to judge, but it's certainly in a position to poison everybody worldwide. Treated water during this third report consistent with the relevant International Atomic Energy Agency safety standards, but they're not a regulatory agency. TEPCO is required to determine the characteristics and activities of the ALPS treated water. So TEPCO is required to determine the danger of the isotopes in the water, not the International Atomic Energy Agency. That's their 48-page release, right? To establish the implementing monitoring program to ensure the public exposures due to the discharges is adequately assessed. So again, this TEPCO is not a decommission authority. TEPCO, imagine if your light and power company has a nuclear power plant. This is what they're doing. And they have an event that contaminates the whole planet. The company is in charge. Not scientists, not academics, not nuclear regulatory agencies, not the big shot IAEA or UNSCLEAR or ERPA or the IPRC or UN or anybody else. TEPCO. The people who have the most to lose by the truth are in charge of the truth. This is absurdness. It's such a twisted solution to leave TEPCO. That way you don't blame the nuclear industry. But the industry is out there meddling. The chosen operational perimeters for the discharge include an annual limit of 22 trillion atoms of tritium and the concentration limits of 1,500 atoms per liter tritium in a discharge. So spreading it out, it's going to spread out anyway. Once you put it in the ocean, you don't have to mix it with water. It's going to mix with the water when it gets there. Right? It's the strangest thing ever because people don't understand the nuances, right? TEPCO has sole responsibility for source monitoring at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plants. Right? They have the sole responsibility for source monitoring. This is the International Atomic Energy Agency's 2-year report. All environmental monitoring related to the nuclear accident is conducted according to the Comprehensive Radiation Monitoring Plan, which is UN. TEPCO and other relevant Japanese authority has responsibilities, not the International Degenerate Agency. Former top IAEA official, 2014, Fukushima is a catastrophe for every citizen of the world. Radiation doesn't recognize borders. The dose for Fukushima fallout in Europe is many times higher than the California government claimed for the West Coast. There have been dissenting voices. This comprehensive radiological characterization of samples of ALPS treated water is a conduct, but it is not expected any significant or detectable amount of these radionuclides will be present in the sample analyzed. So they're the people orchestrating all the crimes against humanity with the nuclear industry. But they don't have any responsibility, right? They're not a regulatory agency. They keep reminding you that. So they can't be held accountable. Not only that, they already gave themselves immunity because they're UN. You can't hold them accountable anyway. Former top IAEA official means nothing because you can't hold them accountable. The IAEA considers that it is necessary to promote confidence in TEPCO's source monitoring. Yeah, because why would you want to trust a company that polluted the whole planet? Why put them in charge? Kind of sick and twisted and demented and vicious and hateful attack upon humanity is that? Common radionuclides. Oh, they're common. Yeah, nuclear meltdowns. In the tanks from which samples will be collected has been published by TEPCO. So if TEPCO doesn't want to tell you the truth because they can lose a lot of the investors, then they don't have to. The UN will publish whatever it said. Despite the rainfall in Canada, the United States was 20 million particles, for goodness sakes, of radioactive iodine-131. You can't be an iodine-131 unless you pulse energy at the speed of light every second. Almost the speed of light every second. So that's 20 million pulses of energy almost at the speed of light every second. Iodine-131 is not inert. It has a short half-life, but during that half-life it's pulsing brutal energy. And so tritium-3H, half-life's 12 years, discharge limits 60,000 atoms per liter. But don't worry, they're only releasing, and 3H, you'll never hear them say that again. And they don't even put the T there, right? Tritium-3H. Fuckers, man. Fukushima nuclear plume covered most of North America, now over North Atlantic, including the Caribbean and Canada's east coast. So this contraption they built alongside of it doesn't even physically touch the building. But no, we're getting fuel out of the pool. Here it is. So at the top of this building, 150 feet above it, this is what it looks like apparently. Right, and that stump up right there, above the stump. Some hard cases. No end in sight for the radioactive releases at Fukushima, IAEA. Could last months, says the IRSN. No, it's all released right away. It's covering the whole planet, splitting atoms wherever it went, forever and ever and ever. It's the worst thing could happen to a planet with 8 million species. It's the quickest way to exterminate 8 million species without them being able to perceive it. It's guaranteed. It's a guaranteed extinction event. See where the arrow pointed us 20 feet. The buildings are supposed to be 190 feet. Do you really think that this is at the top of that building, 150 feet above it? Surface forecast shows Xenon 133 plume lingering over Florida Eastern Gulf. Well, that's the Norwegian Institute for Air Research, but there would have been a similar amount of Xenon 135. Many other, all of these isotopes would have been in the same plume, by the way. The plumes covered the whole planet, and these numbers are whatever TEPCO will be looking for according to the IAEA hope that TEPCO said, yes, we'll look for those isotopes. Now, if TEPCO doesn't report that they found any, that's the IAEA is not an authority, not a regulatory agency. How many people think that this building, this official building, is actually 150 feet above the stump to your left? Anybody? Is there anybody out there? Anybody? We got snuffed tonight, did we? 11 viewers, 17 likes. It's a pretty good show. I thought we were having a bit of fun, quite a bit of fun there the first hour. We were kicking ass. Latest forecast is all of California on irradiation. April the 6th shows levels as high as in Japan. Norwegian Institute for Research again. But don't worry, they didn't find anything. Whatever's being released is, when they're looking for tritium, everything else is acceptable. These are all acceptable. Anything to worry about is the tritium. Tritium is the least one you're worried about, even though it's organically bound, which means it'll sequester in your muscles, your organs, and that. You still got to worry about all of this stuff. Look at the iodines. Really, only 9. When you had 220 million atoms got out, you had 220 million atoms of iodine 129 per liter covering the United States, Canada, and within 20 days the entire planet. Let me find that for you. Not that it matters, I know. I'm pretty positive I know where that's to. Sometimes. It's so crazy. They're only going to release 9 of iodine 129, but there was 220 million atoms per liter of radioactive fallout of iodine 129 after Fukushima, Canada, United States. Rapidly to Canada, United States, elevated levels continued for many months. But officially, don't worry about what. See, he wants you to think about what's coming out and is going to be in the never seen my system do that before. 220 million atoms per liter of iodine 129 in the rain. The West Coast was hit with 220 million atoms, but United Nations says only 9 is going to get released. But, as long as TEPCO is doing its job, right? That's some crazy shit right there. That's what that is. Unprecedented huge mortality event happening along the United States West Coast because it all got out. It poisoned everything, killed everything. We had organisms in the water, then all of a sudden we saw nothing. And I was out on the ocean doing research expeditions reporting that. I don't know anybody else was. I was actually reporting it and showing you the evidence. This is 4 size of Reactor 4, by the way. This is what it looks like, though, even though the building doesn't even exist. United Nations is technetium 190 or 99, which apparently is a really nasty isotope, and it comes with all kinds of other ones. 210,000 year half-life, and 1,000 atoms per liter. Well, see, worry about what already got out. Everyone on Earth has already been irradiated by Fukushima. The plutonium dispersal, this is nuts. This is 20 days of radioactive fallout of neptunium-239. And so that's 20 days, and every 2.5 days, 50% of the neptunium decays to plutonium-239. You'd have it the entire planet in 20 days. Neptunium-239. They don't have it there for some reason. That's convenient. Because it decays to plutonium. They don't even have the decays there. 239 plutonium, 24,000 year half-life, only 4 atoms per liter, really. I mean, you buried the planet in that stuff. You buried the planet in these isotopes, which are there forever, pulsing energy brutally, because they're not natural. Nothing on the planet has an autoimmune trigger to defend against it. Cesium plume covered the whole planet. I'll just call him back when he hangs up here. Come in. Come and call you back. There we go. Well, it saves him on his side, right? Hopefully, that's how it works. Hey, buddy.
Hello.
Hey.
You You still on?
Yeah, we're still going strong. You're live. You're good?
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's okay.
These heathen 14-year-old grandkids of mine.
Yeah.
Nightmare.
No worries.
But anyway, yeah, so back to the SMR. I mean, they know they're done, and how they got this through Parliament in Congress, well, but they got it through last year, and it's literally tens and tens of billions of dollars. And like I said, they had a serious pullback. Everybody's like, you can't build no nuclear reactor. They cost too much. They're too overridden. It's something or thing. So they went back and retooled the bill to be all SMRs. It's got to be new technology. It's called the Advanced Nuclear Bill in the U.S. It's very similar in the Parliament. UK's got the same bill. They all got through last year. And they're just full of tens of billions of dollars of taxpayer money. And so everybody, once that bill got through last July, everybody dove in full speed. It wasn't just NuScale anymore.
No.
NuScale had been looting Utah for 15 years, and Utah finally said enough. But now Governor Cox says we're going to be the nuclear hub. And he signed a deal with Holtec, believe it or not, recently for an SMR here. I mean, so it's just
Yeah, with Chris Singh, yeah.
taxpayers' money by the tens of billions of dollars. Free money. It's free money, and they know that. Every company, everybody's in on it. You name it. They're in on it.
And they all got to pretend that a 240-foot building is a small modular reactor
Yeah, they
until
have
one
to call
shows
it
up.
small.
It's weird.
And, that's one that there might be about a 5% chance that they actually build, but it'll go on for decades. Like, you remember the Mox Fuel at Savannah River, Georgia?
Yeah.
That started out at $350 million in 1990s. I call the Tower of Babel, Arriva, Chicago Bridge and Iron. They're at over $40 billion in overrides, and they said we don't have it. We give up.
Right. 90% of the money.
To it.
90% of the money stolen through administration, it appears.
Right.
And that they gave the schools or in the local areas within 100 miles or something like $2 billion worth of material that was earmarked for the small modular reactor, like aluminum pipes and stuff like that. It was like $2 billion worth of material they had gathered up. No intentions of trying to build it. Right.
Well, now that you've got...
You're talking about the reprocessing plant that's at Savannah, right?
Right. Well, it's the Mox Fuel, the
That's right,
reprocessing,
yeah, that's
which
right.
is all
Okay.
fairy tale. But so now Westinghouse
It's
went
supposed to be
bankrupt.
illegal. Go ahead.
So Westinghouse went bankrupt, and
Right.
guess who bought Westinghouse?
Brookfield.
Right. Brookfield's the real estate company. Jared Kushner's
Yeah,
involved with that.
Canada. Some of the Canadian
So
pension
now
plans is used for
they're
that.
going to say they just signed a deal. About the two reactors in South Carolina that ended up being the Somerville, that ended up being the biggest scam. People went to prison for
That's
it.
right,
Some
yeah.
of the executives.
Russia's named a big fat
So
guy.
now they've got a contract to start it back up. So here we go again.
Yeah, well,
So anyway, I just want to clarify that.
That's
but
all
I
good,
got to
man.
get.
I'm just
All
out
right,
swinging
so-
at the industry tonight for a bit of fun. I just
Oh,
want to
just
mock. I'm just out to
dirty.
mock. I'm out to just mock the shit out of them.
No, I love it. Like
Yeah.
I said, how's that small? The size of it. I mean,
Yeah.
my God.
It's just so
It's
so
just
ridiculous.
So obscene, all of it.
I was going to come out and do a proper show on it, and then I was like, I just can't do it. I got to come out and just brutalize them.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Because it's all one.
Yeah.
Nobody's got to call them out for their lives.
That's fact, man. You know it. Okay, buddy. Good stuff. Thanks for calling,
All right.
Kevin.
All right,
Get you next
thanks.
time. Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye. That's Kevin Blanche. Kevin's a crusader in many ways. He's been to, I would imagine, every nuclear site in the United States and then some worldwide. And he's protested with everybody out there. That's quite the legacy, man. How you going to beat that one? No one will ever beat that legacy. Oh, no, decades and decades of showing up and getting in their faces. Getting arrested, getting attacked by the cops, getting getting harassed by the security at the facilities. You've seen it all over and over and over and over and over. And what are you supposed to do? That's the traditional gumboot protester activist as you can get, right? That's the old school. Get in their faces. Make them pay. Make them face that reality of what they're up to. That is, it's not all sugar pie honeycups, right? It's evil and sadistic and twisted. And here's just a bit of it to remind you. Fukushima plume model showed 1 million atoms per square meter. That's when you're talking about 1 million per square meter, you're talking about disposition, actual radioactive fall at ground level, on the ground itself, a blanket, which suffocates. You're talking about stuff that it doesn't travel by itself, right? It's the biggest byproduct of the radioactive fuel rod is curium isotopes, with incredibly long life, I might add. The problem is it's lethal to everybody and every species. And it could take years, days, months, lifetimes for it to manifest. But it's going to eventually, Ray, it's going to manifest in a very ugly way. Like tonight's show, I really want to come out and bludgeon the industry. That's basically, not only because, that I want to bludgeon them because they're, it's very personal with me, the nuclear industry, and it's very personal what they've done. I take it very personal to this planet and to everybody on the planet and every species on the planet. That's personal. I think everybody should feel that way, that is contempt. That's blatant contempt, and they got away with it. They're getting away with it. They got away with it for 80 years. They have 1,000 fuel pools, strategically placed worldwide, full of decades of reactor cores that are still splitting atoms for millions of homes and businesses. And that's released directly into your environment every minute. Like a fuel pool is boiling. That's what a fuel pool is, boiling fuel that is splitting atoms. The water boils because it's splitting atoms. The atoms are the water itself, and they're boiled off and released into the environment in the form of steam. And then they're liberated from the steam, and now they're to hunt down every species, every plant, every flora and fauna, all the, it's an omnicide worldwide from its fallout, right? And they've come after us from every conceivable way you could imagine and continue to do it. Every nuclear plant has an incinerator. Every nuclear power plant has a disposal indirectly into the ocean, legally acceptable, what's considered legal because there's no one challenged it. And the people that are involved in the so-called challenge are the controlled opposition. They were put there to displace me or you or anybody else that's rational. And then the people that are given permission they own all of them. They're captured all the regulatory agencies from the very inception, as far as I can tell, but certainly over the last 60 years. It's 100% capture. And only the people, each administration gets its own regulatory agency. There's a reason for that too. And they're controlled. And so one administration might be anti-nuclear. 4 years later, the next government, his administration, their administration, might be anti-nuclear, as we've seen back and forth in Taiwan. And, Joe Biden was deliberately sadistic. We've seen many manifestations of that type of corruption symmetrically worldwide through it all pro-nuclear governments, just belligerence for our planet. And that is not going to be, that can't be acceptable. We can't accept that as an option, right? We're not in this fight to lose. We're not going to lose. That's the reality of it. We went through education. the policymakers, the investors, et cetera, that are looking at this industry are going to be directed to me. Anybody with a lot of money, they're going to come and watch our material. They're going to come and listen, and they're going to scrutinize it not for very long, because they're going to run into a shit show like tonight's, where the truth is so overwhelming, so blatant. So a big percentage of so-called policymakers and investors are not going to be all in on nuclear all of a sudden, right? They're going to have conflicting pains of conscience, let's put it that way. Even though they're probably going to go do the wrong thing, it's still going to leave them with pains of conscience that is going to curse the industry in many other ways. We win. We always win. Like the pro-nuclear don't used to try to come to my shows and look for Freudian slips is the best they could hope for. And by the time they sat there hoping to catch me screw up or something they could mock me over, they began having pains of conscience. They began having doubts. So the enthusiastic student, right, his first year going to university to take nuclear, they're most likely going to come across our material because we're spread out everywhere. And not just YouTube. And when they find that material, they're going to lose that enthusiasm, right, from ignorance that they have. Because the nuclear student has enthusiasm from ignorance. They don't know, right? They're looking forward to learning. And a lot of money to be made, there's a lot of prestige, and all their friends are impressed. But then they find something like me, and then they're like, oh shit, I don't want to watch that. That's oops, I can't watch that. But a lot of them, their parents and their friends and families do, and they beat them up with these narratives. Our narratives are seriously, are like throwing big stones at the nuclear industry to their face, right? Because they can't beat the narrative. They can tell you the lie, but the truth now is accessible for everybody. So the International Atomic Energy Agency can't find any problems on tritium, and that's under control. They acknowledge they have to, look, they actually got curium isotopes there. 244 is curium on the bottom there. You need lead shielding 20 times thicker than you do for plutonium. And it's absurd. It's utterly absurd to suggest that, because we know the plutonium plumes, right? You see the plutonium, the 238, 239, 240? Really, you're going to get at least 4 atoms. But you already contaminated the entire planet with your plutonium radioactive fallout in the first 20 days. So what the International Atomic Energy Agency published is pretty sadistic. They're not your friends or anybody else's. Just some death cult's friends, that's about it. Like the plot of a summer horror flick all along the Canadian Pacific coast. Muscles are dying, bodies swollen by cancerous tumors. It wasn't just muscles. Now, muscles were very prolific. At low tide in British Columbia, there was nowhere you can go. You couldn't get 100 pounds of muscles in just 20, 25 minutes because you got to tear clear of the rocks and that, right? There was nowhere you can go. You wouldn't get that. After Fukushima, if you can find an adult muscle, it meant you were in a very rare place. And then he suggested that the cancer from the mussels, which never had cancer in their histories, were spreading cancers to all the other species like a virus. Cancer doesn't work that way. It never got much traction, but it did happen. I was out doing research expeditions at that time. So suggesting that nothing got out, and yet they're saying their discharge limits are all of these isotopes. But don't worry, we're looking for tritium. But then the reality of what actually happened were the reactors lost all their inventories right away. I mean, they picked up 30 million one-ton bags, so to suggest nothing got out into the ocean, which is right alongside of it, is absurd when they claimed originally that everything blew into the ocean. Just the radioactive fallout, not talking about the massive amount of water they poured on the fuel, melted, destroyed buildings, and washed into the ocean. It doesn't have to leak, crack, or fall for fuel to overheat. nuclear expert. All it takes is coolant to stop circulating at the spent fuel number 4 for extensive fuel damage to occur, which is quite an interesting statement. Because you don't need a so-called meltdown, you just need denigration of the fuel that are in the fuel pools, and you can have the releases before the actual fire starts. See, the problem is if you don't circulate it, that'll happen, the water in the fuel pools. If you don't add water constantly because you're losing 120,000 liters a day, even in the best of circumstances, you're gonna be in real trouble in about 2 days, 3 days. You're gonna expose fuel. Zirconium cladding is gonna ignite at 1800 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures. That's gonna ignite the pellets inside of it. They're gonna burn it up to 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures. And it doesn't need oxygen, and it'll burn underwater, and it does. And it's all gone into a blob, and a lot of it is released into the environment. There's a whole lot of weird correct scenarios there too, where many different ways to lose the inventories. They're all gone. As shock as the sardines vanish off California. And the sardines, of course, are a major keystone species, right? There's an incredible amount of migratory species, birds and animals and whales are dependent upon the sardines for millions of generations, have followed their cycle, and so the migratory species do too. They eat as they're traveling, right, and sleep with their food every night. And they travel vast distances of oceans. Animals suddenly died on the West Coast right after 2011. The radioactive fallout that they're showing you that might get released has already been released. 500 trillion atoms a kilogram. Yeah, but nothing got out. But you documented it. 500 million trillion atoms per kilogram found. Significant consequences. And there's this highly radioactive material rained on Tokyo. Highly radioactive. But you can't find nothing on the coastlines, any amounts within their considered acceptable limits. This story goes a little deeper for you. A forecast map of radioactive clouds showed threat to the United States West Coast. If any of the spent fuel rods in the pools did indeed catch fire, just bear with me, the high heat would loft the radiation in clouds that would spread the radioactivity. This was the cesium-137. It pulses energy 600 feet. This study is a spike in radioactive fallout produced by the French government, the IRSA, the actual French radiation experts. And this model is estimated, this 20 days, right there, 25 days. This is estimated at 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air covering the entire planet at 20 days. So this was a spike. So this is not an opinion or a conjecture, this is a spike. 1 million to 10 million times. And then at 20 days, I'll put it on 20 days for you. Just 20 days right there. And 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air of cesium-137 per cubic meter. So there's nothing escaped that. And so if that happened, and it did, we have the proof already, the threat is considered so severe that at the start of the crisis Friday, immediately after the shattering earthquake, Fukushima plant officials focused their attention on a damaged storage pool for spent nuclear fuel at number 2 reactor. Reactor 2. The reactor is inside the thick walls, and the spent fuel of reactor 1 and 3 is out in the open. The waters of the non-cooled pool would start to boil in anywhere from days to a week. No, it boils right away. They replace 120,000 liters each day. Once per every pool on the planet. Once most of the fuel is exposed, he said it can catch fire. Well, once it catches fire and is burning at enormous temperatures, it evaporates all the rest of the water in the pool. And once it hits 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperature, it'll flash the pool dry, and everything else is an infernal, right? Spent nuclear fuel pool catches fire, plant operator says. Let me show you. Sometimes you can't find it. Sometimes that's all you can find. Hang on. It's just you got so much sometimes. So here's reactor 4. The fuel pool is put at the very top of the building that doesn't even exist. They put that contraption there to manipulate you. Let me show you how bad it is, the manipulation actually. This is 4 fuel pools. Or 4 medias pretending they're 150 feet above the building to your left. You got Canada, United States, Poland, you got Europe, you got United Kingdom all saying they're going to build a small modular reactor, but omitting the fact that it's 240 feet tall. But if they're bragging about it, so they get the shares in the companies to go up, right? But it means that there's no such thing as a small modular reactor. That's what it actually means. There is no small modular reactors. And there's such a stupid people, the nuclear industry, such stupid. It's just so stupid that they done that. Water in a pool storing spent fuel at the number 4 reactor plant may be boiling after the fuel has caught fire earlier. May be boiling. Is that why there's claiming they're on top of the building that don't exist? Number 4? Is all your medias, all your universities evil when it comes to the nuclear industry? Will cut your throat for the nuclear industry in a drop of a hat? The crazy answer is yes. That is the craziest statement imaginable. If we don't fight back, then who's going to fight back? If we don't come here and have a conversation, nobody's going to do it. I don't know. How are we doing here? We're 153, and let's go a few more minutes here. Plate boundary stress makes earthquakes off northern Japan a regular occurrence. Earthquakes off the coast of northern Japan due to stress between the tectonic plates boundaries have happened regularly over centuries. That's very nice of them to come out and acknowledge that. Sometimes devastating effects, ever constant. The tectonic plates for the Niigata nuclear reactors are going to open. You see the arrow over there, that's the closest one to me. That's the Niigata plant. And that dotted line is Eurasian plate, North American plate. And then the next reactor, this is one of the reactors that are going to open up, is right by the tectonic plates that is 4,000 years old and ruptured on January 1st, 2024, and devastated the Noto Peninsula, the Ishikawa Prefecture. But they're going to open that plant up, even though there was 6,700 homes damaged by liquefaction from the epicenter of Noto Peninsula. is what he said it to. But that wasn't the ground zero. The ground zero was the tectonic plates, for goodness sakes. The other nuclear power plant they want to open, that they just said they're going to open, the Tomari nuclear power plant, is, and you see that arrow? That arrow is that X up right there. That's where they just had a massive earthquake that dumped the payloads of all sides of the mountains. It's not like a landslide. You dump the payloads of the mountains. They're no longer the kind of mountains they were. It's not like a landslide where you had a huge, massive chunk. This is symmetrical. This was a huge fault line, by the way. It wasn't just the mountains. But man, oh man, oh man. It dumped the payloads in all the sizes of the mountains. Do you see it? They blamed it, they called this a 6.6 magnitude earthquake and hit it. And that's where they're going to open, just short distance from that, less than 100 kilometers. You see that arrow? That's where they had a 9.5 quake on land. And the Tomari nuclear power plant is a big bullseye for this stuff. It was 2018. They call it a 6.7 magnitude and a maximum intensity of 7 on the Shindu scale, which happens to be, they conveniently left out, is 7, which was a 10 earthquake. So like having a 10 earthquake, where that rectangle is 2, and you can see, I'll get it out of the way, you can see behind me the scale on the bottom right hand in the blue, 50-mile scale from that to the nuclear power plant. There was significant damage over by the nuclear power plant. You're not very far away when it comes to the tectonic plates. So the next 2 reactors they're opening are both by an incredibly active tectonic plate zones. Like it defies any rationale whatsoever. And so then they got the power plant after the Noto Peninsula had an earthquake. I think it was February. There was 2, right? There was one that month in January. This was January the 9th. A lower 5 on the Japan seismic intensity scale of 7, and they got the prefecture. But liquefaction triggered by the Noto Peninsula earthquake, 6,700 homes. That was what they called extensive damage. But like the reality of it is, both of these are on tectonic plates. That plate happens to run across to Fukushima. But it ran to the Noto Peninsula where you had the Shika nuclear power plant, of all places. Right, that had a tsunami, and the ground rose up 13 feet and caught the tsunami coming in for like 800 feet offshore, extra landmass now. This because that 4,000-year-old fault line over there ruptured. Unbelievable damage. And that's the next 2 places they're going to open nuclear power plants. And then the small modular reactors are going to be 240-foot skyscrapers. This industry is insane. It's actually insane. What they appear to be doing is, what's the worst thing we can do? And then they go ahead and do that. And I'm not saying that to over-exaggerate something. I'm saying that because that's what we see them doing. So what is going on? Why are they so genocidal, omnicidal towards our planet? They've done us in now after 80 years, 1,000 fuel pools. But when should we decide to hold them accountable? At what point are we going to stop being neutered and go after these pieces of shit? These sadistic, twisted serial killers that are destroying all of our species. When should we, pull the trigger on that? When should we get in their faces? At what point? Like coming out and saying that 240-foot skyscraper is a small modular reactor, and then have the suggestion that Poland is going to build them, that United Kingdom is going to be building them, Europe is going to be building them, United States, Canada is building them, and then that's okay because we're the fucking weirdos from Toshiba or from General Electric or from the nuclear industry is really hard to bear. It's really hard. It's really hard to accept that that is acceptable. It's a 240-foot skyscraper is a 240-foot skyscraper. It's not a small modular reactor. I wonder how that's going to play out when they finally come out with a small modular reactor, right? That'll fit on the back of one of those trucks there. And somebody does a TikTok video and compares the 24-foot skyscraper with the latest, greatest fake small modular reactor company. Because we can do that tomorrow, actually, right? NuScale have them out there where they claim they're going to be micro reactors. I don't know. Who knows? Do you know? I don't know. That's right, Dana. When the power goes out worldwide from a flare, and we got the sun is incredibly active, all the nuclear plants will melt down to one time. That's a fact. Okay. Well, I'm pretty proud of myself. I made it to the end of the show. Sometimes it's really hard. This is my 30th day now, exercise, hour and a half in the sauna again today, and 25 minutes on the red light therapy. And made it through the first month. I consider the first month a serious milestone. And then you have to constantly, on eat twice a day, you have to watch all your intakes, the whole 9 years. Feeling better, man. Feeling good. I hope by the spring I'll be incredibly, or at least mobile anyway. Get out and do some field researches. If the nuclear industry doesn't poison everything we got and destroy us before that. How can you call that a small modular reactor when it's actually a 24-story building? That'll be an interesting story to follow up. I'm sure we'll be seeing lots of it. I noticed James posted a video. We're going to close it out with a surprise from James. Lucid site on YouTube. Here we go. And he's got uranium aquifer exceptions. I'm sure he's got a link below the video, but usually we never get to it because I'm stupid. Time I get through the show, I'm pretty stupid. Just want to sit back and watch a good video or a song. He does all different genres, and he has incredible... He's at 492 videos, man. So 15 of them are not dedicated to nuclear industry per se. So when he gets to 515, that'll be 500 anti-nuclear videos. Highly educational videos, right, on top of that. And some crazy cool stuff. Like your Department of Energy, that is brilliantly creepy, right? That gives you that the nuclear industry is just creepy. And so you can see he's been censored pretty heavily himself. We're going to play that. You have a great night. Great day tomorrow. Unless something else happens, I'll be back hopefully on Sunday. Try to stop me. I fight with this now like a racket before. Brilliant. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. Take care, everybody. Or Sunday night. You know, I feel kind of guilty. We only got 4 shows in this week. But I burnt out pretty good. We'll do what we'll do. Take care.
Basin's edge, they'll force their solutions into the sandstone. Below the field runs the Oglalas current. Through porous rock no barrier can slow. And and they'll break its balance for uranium's profit, leaving a cost no future will truly know. Uranium aquifer exception, granted in moments the land can't contest, turning a living sacred water into a loss no mitigation can redress. Uranium aquifer exception, a sacrificed ground they claim to own. Call it allowed, call it procedure, so go ahead and desecrate native culture. The aquifer connects through the formation, a moving network that never stands still. They inject their solvents into its pathways. A decree declares this water non-drinking. A category 4 so the damage can stay, but no drawn boundary can hold contamination. Flowing radioactivity on its way downstream. They know radioactivity behaves this way. Uranium aquifer exception, granted in moments the land can't contest, turning a living sacred water into a loss no mitigation can redress. Uranium aquifer exception, a sacrificed ground they claim to own. Call it allowed, call it procedure, so go ahead and desecrate native culture. They call uranium a matter of security. NRC waiver rises above the river and plain, a resource no demand requires. Yet they open the aquifer to irreversible change. This cost is carried by those not yet living. The NRC ruling is made in a room without witness, but the consequences all they will know. Uranium aquifer exception, once it is granted, nothing returns. This is the lesson the NRC will never learn. Uranium aquifer exception. Uranium aquifer exception, a verdict that stockpiles uranium over fresh water, a broken loophole system that allows such things.